What's up, y'all? I'm trying to adjust some shit. Fuck my whole life. I swear to God. This lighting is just bad, and I am trying to get my life together. How are you all doing? Welcome, welcome. Get settled in. You guys know I wait until we have a good number of people. Listen, are you actually drunk? So, it's wearing off. However, I was drinking a little bit earlier, and I'm doing this low carb thing. So I totally saved my carbs. What's going on with the screen? What do you mean what's going on with the screen? Ooh, you guys are new to this shit, I guess. Asking questions about what I'm really doing and what's up with my screen. Woo! That's not how we do this shit here. But let me tell you, we're going to touch on social media entitlement on this shit too. Because I'm about fucking tired of y'all being so goddamn demanding of strangers and people you don't know. Shout out to everybody who is returning. This is not your first Periscope. Let me see some of those hearts. If this is your first Periscope, you guys know that we check in from all around the world. Let me know where you guys are. Hi, Neil. What's good? Y'all notice I changed my name to Pastor Lydia? Shout out to Pastor Lydia. Whatever the fuck she's preaching got to be real. Minnesota, D.C., Connecticut, Portland, Houston, St. Pete, Philly is in the house. Albany, New York, New Orleans. Yo, there's some wild shit going on in New Orleans. Y'all be safe down there, man. Been reading some pretty terrible stories out there. Brooklyn, Wasteland, South Bend, Indiana. What's life like in South Bend, Indiana? I've never been. I have been to Indiana. I've never been to South Bend. First time from North Carolina, welcome. We appreciate you. San Diego's here. Durham. A lot of North Carolina folks. I support. Lame and oppressive. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Let's avoid using the word lame, though. A lot of members of our disabled community are really offended by that word, and I've been trying to get a little better with my word usage. I will say nigga, bitch, and cracker, though. So, but, I try not to say things like dumb and lame and idiot. I try to be conscious of that shit. You know what I mean? I don't fuck with Tumblr, though. Because the what? Oh, shit. Wait, okay. The motherfuckers on Tumblr, they be on some next shit. I don't understand. I don't think they speak in real life. I think they just type. And that way they're able to backspace every word that they would normally say in regular conversation, right? Oh, heard about you from Combat Jack. Thank you. Shout out to Reggie and all and Pete, all the folks at Combat Jack show. I really loved being on the show. I don't like retarded either, and if you use that, that's not cool either. But yeah, I feel like a lot of the folks on Tumblr, they don't have real friends, and they don't really go places. And I mean, I guess that's okay. Like, I'm not trying to be a bully or anything, but I guess I'm from an older sector of the world, so I don't really get into all of that. I try to be as conscious as possible. I try not to be intentionally offensive. I try to take heed to what folks say. But at the same goddamn time, I have friends, and I have a life, and I do things, and I go places. And I'm not talking about people who are limited to their homes. I'm not talking about y'all. I'm not talking to people who are confined or things like that. I'm talking about the people who absolutely have the capacity to go out there and make friends, but they spend all their day on Tumblr trying to tell other people that they can't type certain words. Like, shut up. I had somebody today kind of trying to come at me for my use of the word fat. Now, if you know me, you've been following me, I'm a fat motherfucker, and I talk about being fat all the goddamn time. And I have a problem because a lot of people see my pictures and they don't associate me with being fat or whatever the fuck that means. Motherfucker, I'm almost 250 pounds. I'm a fat motherfucker, and you're going to get these two stomachs. But I used to be 406 pounds. And then a bitch got down to 220 and thought she was cute, but then I started looking a little sick, so I started eating again. But I'm back to where I am, and I'm happy. My man like it. I still get the dick, so I mean, whatever. But I have this thing where I try to destigmatize fat. Fat is fat. It's fucking fat. We're fat as fuck. I don't say voluptuous. I don't like the plus size shit, that full figured, motherfucker, you fat. And I think a lot of these goddamn words came out because more for women, not for necessarily for men, because you don't hear a lot about plus size men and full figured men. It's always about women, right? And I think a lot of it came about because the men who like fat motherfuckers like me weren't comfortable admitting that they like fat motherfuckers like me. And I remember reading this article in the Village Voice by this white dude, and he was like, you know, he felt that him talking about liking fat women was almost like coming out of the closet as like a gay person would. And I really had a thing about that. I was just like, you know what? I can kind of understand that, for him at least, where he was coming from, because the stigma of loving and dating and fucking a fat person is so wild and limiting and oppressive for some people. And they just like who they like, right? But here are these people making you feel bad because you like a fat bitch. Like, what? So, you know, I really work with that. Like, I'm fat, you fat, we all fat. Like, fuck it. Like, let's go get some fried chicken and call it a goddamn day. Like, but this woman was, somebody hit me up on my YouTube and was like, you know, I was talking about the shooter in Virginia, and I was like, this fat nigga. And the reason why I called him a fat nigga is because I was talking about how I was reading his timeline and how his issues were related to his own image and his own perception of his own fucking fatness and his blackness and his gayness. And so I was using it in motherfucking context. But since you motherfuckers don't understand context, this motherfucker came at me on my YouTube on some old, yeah, you know, why you gotta call him fat? I said, because the motherfucker was fat. What the fuck you want me to say? He wasn't a skinny motherfucker. He was fat. And he had issues with that shit. He had issues because he used to be model slim and he used to have all these fucking like shit. He used to model for Macy's. He used to have all this shit. And he got fat. And he got shunned. And right, and when you're in broadcast journalism, you try to be on TV, he was getting shunned for being fat. So that was an insecurity for him that he internalized that led to a lot of this fucking violence. So me calling the fat nigga fat, it's just what it is. He was a motherfucking fat nigga. You was more upset that I was calling him fat than calling him a nigga. So nigga, shut the fuck up. Like, real talk. Hey, what's up, white people? I say nigga a lot. I might throw a cracker in there today when I go to talk about this clerk in Kentucky, because that bitch right there. Woo, we're going to get to that, though, because we're going to talk about marriage. We're going to talk about divorce. We're going to talk about shit. Y'all really talking about my earrings? Like, that's what we talking about? I'm talking about the fat nigga that killed the two people on TV, and y'all talking about my motherfucking earrings? Like, that's what we do? Okay. So anyway, I entitled this thing, There is More Than One S in feministS, Leroy, because I'm tired of you motherfuckers that can't spell feminist with an S, the plural. You make all feminists of the whole world into one word. And I'm sick of that shit. And I'm sick of you embarrassing black people in public spaces like social media. And you only use one S when there's two motherfucking S in feminists. And I know your goddamn name gotta be Leroy, Tyrone, Dwayne, or some shit like that. So that's why I called it Leroy. It's more than one S in feminists. Leroy. Okay. So, Hotep Twitter. So you guys know I did a bomb-ass broadcast about Hotep Twitter. And then these motherfuckers gonna get on fucking TV and shit and talk about we can't call them Hoteps no more. Get the fuck out of here. I call them motherfuckers whatever the fuck I want to call them. And I respect what some folks was trying to say, that, oh, you know, you gotta respect the Hotep history and all this other stuff. But these motherfuckers are the ones claiming that shit. These are the motherfuckers that be like, Hotep queen. Oh, you don't want to talk to me? Well, fuck you, bitch. Like, come on. That's a Hotep nigga. That's the one that says, you know, yes, it was fire. And I do think it was one of my better ones. But how you going to come and invoke this shit and the Hotep and the Ra and all of that and black people were all kings and queens and all that shit? If we was all kings and queens, then how the fuck did Queen Nzinga sell fucking hundreds of thousands of us? Like, how did she do that? And we was all kings and queens. You got thousands of kings and queens just letting Queen Nzinga sell us for guns? Is that what happened? Nigga, read a book. Matter of fact, I have a degree in African history, Africana studies. So don't come at me with this shit. I'm not the one. And I'm not saying having a degree means something, but I'm telling you, I spent 4 years studying my people. You ain't gonna tell me all these motherfuckers was kings and queens. There was some peasants and concubines and some jesters and some field hands. And those were the motherfuckers that was sold off for guns. When Queen Nzinga realized she needed guns, she sold these motherfucking peasants to the fucking crackers that came from Europe. And those was your ancestors, nigga. You think the kings and queens got caught? Bitch, no. They didn't. And unless you was born in that part of the continent, I do not believe your ass is a descendant of the motherfucking kings and queens of Hoteplandia. So anyway, they said we can't say that shit no more. I'm going to block this person because I don't understand what's going on. I did. I'm sorry, you guys. I was late. I wasn't paying attention, but I did just block Dick Lapper. I don't know who the fuck that was. Whatever. You know, these fucking infidels, right? They want to infiltrate everything we do. So let's talk about marriage and divorce and all this shit, right? Okay. So, I'm coming from the United States. I'm in the Bronx. I am the love and sex editor at blogher.com, so I do a lot of reading about weddings and marriage and all those kinds of things. I'm so sorry, you guys. I was late to the block. I really apologize for that. But I usually tend to block a lot of that out because I know that white men kind of come and are abusive towards black women. It's kind of like a kink thing for them, so I don't really engage it because I'm not going to involuntarily participate in their little kink thing. They like to be degraded by black women, and so when we respond to those things, they actually get off on us being angry and excited. So I don't give reactions like that because people like that do that. And tuck that one in your hat just so you know it. Don't bother. So anyway, the United States has a pretty high divorce rate. They said estimated between 40 and 50% of all marriages in the United States result in divorce, and they say it's even higher for subsequent marriages, as in your second marriage or your third marriage, you're more likely to get a divorce. And now we have, the Supreme Court has ruled that same-sex marriage and same-gender marriage, however you want to refer to it, is the law of the land. And so the current story, I mean, there's been some opposition. Some of the really backward states have been trying to kind of push back against that and prevent people from doing that. And you really can't do that because, one, it's the motherfucking law of the land. Two, it's the motherfucking law of the land. Three, you motherfuckers lost the war and you didn't secede. So you're the law of the land. Four, you use the interstate. Five, you go to your national parks. Six, you guys utilize federal benefits more than anybody else in the whole fucking country. Whatever number I was on, when you filed a motherfucking E-40, that simple ass E-40 you have because you don't make enough money to file anything more than that, you are definitely taking home your federal tax deduction. So, fuck you. And your states are the highest in obesity and diabetes and all this other shit and all these fucking diseases, and the lowest in education and the highest in poverty. So again, you're not invited to the adult table in this conversation. You, Kentucky, Louisiana, Georgia, all these other places, you sit at the kiddie table while the rest of us handle how our country's going to go. So, this motherfucker, this motherfucking crackerhead, she decided, I'm looking at my computer in case I go off and you're wondering what the fuck am I looking at. I'm not watching porn. I'm talking about the bitch, okay. Yes, I called her a bitch because fuck you. You denying people access to marriage. You a bitch. Like, you a straight up bitch. And that's like gender inclusive. You want to deny people their constitutional right to marriage, you are a bitch. And that's how I'm going to refer to your ass henceforth. So the bitch's name is, what's her name? Kim Davis. Nondescript name. Could be black, but she's not. She talking about, oh, well, I'm not going to give licenses because it is my First Amendment right to not give licenses to same-sex couples, right? Okay. And then this other motherfucker, who's this other white dude that came along? What was his name? Because he was talking a lot of shit. Casey Davis, I think, or something like that. I don't know. This other white dude. I was watching on CNN. I forgot his fucking name. He talking about, he's on a bike ride somewhere. He talking about when he comes back, he is going to adhere to the, you know, the law of the land. However, he's talking about how Kentucky, their laws, you know, supersede the Constitution. This is the future of America. You have people like lawmakers and officials and people who are elected officials, people who are put in these positions of power who believe that their state rights trump the federal law of the fucking land. Matter of fact, this is what the motherfucker said. First, he cites the First Amendment. What is the First Amendment, y'all? First Amendment, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. That's what the First Amendment says. Right? Okay. This motherfucker gonna say, in his state, he said to look at Section 26 of the Kentucky Constitution. So you know a bitch went to the Kentucky Constitution, Section 26. Y'all want to know what it says? Section 26, general powers subordinate to the Bill of Rights. Laws contrary thereto are void. Did you really go on CNN and cite Section 26? Who is this talking about dirty Negro block? Sorry, I don't know who that is. How you going to go to and cite Kentucky Constitution, Section 26, that says the general powers are subordinate to the Bill of Rights. Laws contrary thereto are void. Let me keep reading. To guard against transgression of the high powers which we have delegated, we declare that everything in this Bill of Rights is accepted out of the general powers of government and shall forever remain inviolate, and all laws contrary thereto or contrary to this Constitution shall be void. He's pointing to that, saying that that means that when the federal government makes a law against Kentucky, saying that you know they have to do something that goes against their Bill of Rights, that it's void. This was ratified August 3rd of 1891. It was revised September 28th of 1891. He's suggesting that this clause allows Kentucky to go against the federal government. No, motherfucker. Go back to school. You know, in a lot of these states, they don't require that you have anything more than a high school diploma. And we know that American high schools aren't really doing a great job teaching civics and history and politics. So, he's suggesting that Kentucky has a way out. They do not. Section 26 carries no power other than in the Kentucky Constitution and the Kentucky Bill of Rights. It has nothing to do with the federal government. The federal government says jump your state constitution rights in how high? That's what happens. This is supposed to happen. Okay? Okay. So he's citing this loophole and he thinks that that's what's going to happen. Meanwhile, Kim Davis, with her fucked up hairstyle, is standing there like, I'm not giving these licenses. Okay? Are you there for queers or not? I'm just getting in here. I want you to slow down and I want you to pay attention. You may not know anything about me, and that's cool. But what I want you to do is I want you to slow down and I want you to listen. I'm getting to the point. Don't fucking interrupt me. I love you, but I don't do that shit. Not when especially not from men and not from non-black people. Don't interrupt me. Okay? Love y'all though. Don't do that shit. You late. You the late one. You on color people time. So you come to my shit late. You better catch up. So anyway. So Kim is talking about I'm not giving out no, licenses. And she came back to work the next day. You think that's a troll? If it's a troll, I'll block them the next time. Thank you for letting me know. I appreciate y'all. How did Kim come back to work the next day, folks? If Kim Tisha had tried that shit, they'd have had her black ass behind the bars of jail, probably underneath. if Kim Kwanda decided she wasn't gonna go and give these licenses, her ass would have been in jail. But Kim Davis, an extra from Roseanne, came to work the next day. How is that possible, America? Just wondering. Just wanting to know. She should have been fired. Period. I agree. Because she is obstructing the law. She is denying these people access to their rights, their civil rights. She is violating their civil rights. Okay? All right. Well, here's an interesting thing, and this is something I want to bring up about the gay rights movement, right? You can't fire elected officials. I mean, I don't know. Is she elected? Is she not elected? Who knows? I don't fucking pay attention. You know what? I don't give a fuck about these motherfuckers. They really don't. They can burn in hell for all I care. I don't give a fuck. Was she elected? Did somebody elect her? Did she really get elected? No, that's a troll? Okay. All right, well, I'm going to block that person. Kim is just a clerk, right? I thought she was just a clerk. You're in Kentucky. Give me some feedback. What's happening out there in Kentucky? How are you surviving? Do you need us to send a care package to Kentucky? Anybody in Kentucky need a care package? Because we'll send it. I know it's hard. We got some good barbecue, though. All right. So, in this gay rights movement, and everybody named Mama is texting me right now. I apologize. Okay. Anybody notice who gets ahead the most? White, cisgender, gay men. Right? White, cisgender, gay men. Who are, by the way, some of the most racist, bigoted, sexist motherfuckers on the planet. Let's not get it twisted. Okay? Notice how they are the ones who are able to push these agendas, right? And get forward with making progress that affects all the rest of us, right? I identify as a queer woman. I am a queer black woman of color. Black woman of color. I've been drinking. I'm a queer black woman, right? And I respect and I appreciate the fight. But I also know that most of modern movements are modeled after the Black Power, freedom fights and the Civil Rights movement. A lot of people borrowed from the architects who basically laid the blueprints for revolutionary movements, and that comes from black people. You don't want to acknowledge that. That's cool. You be in denial. But the truth of the matter is that in America, it has been black people who have really paved the way for protests. Who cares as long as it's a positive movement? One more comment and I'm blocking your ass because I'm getting to a point. You are looking at a black woman. I'm going to talk about black shit. I'm going to talk about colored shit. If you don't like it and I'm critiquing white gay men, then get the fuck off of my broadcast. That's real talk. I'm not even going to be nice about that shit. Don't watch a black woman if you have issues with me bringing up blackness. Okay? Women of color around the world are responsible for the majority of the fucking progress made in the history of the world. While white men been out there waging wars and destroying entire societies and cultures and lives and people and families, it has been women of color who have sustained communities and cultures and countries and entire peoples for as long as we have existed. So this is my goddamn broadcast, and I say what the fuck I want. Now back to these white men who get to do everything after they borrowed from us, and we lay down the blueprints. They get to put their foot in the door because they have white privilege, they have cisgender privilege, they have, a lot of them have class privilege as well. It's very hard to fund these kinds of cases. And a lot of them have, a lot of class privilege and access to resources that a lot of people don't have. A lot of them can afford to be out. And yes, there is a thing as being able to afford to be out. We have to stop chastising people who are not out about their sexuality, because it is a very risky thing. It can cost you your life, your job, your resources, your family, and everything. So if you don't have the privilege to do that and to come out and say, this is who I am, then I don't recommend you do it until you are comfortable and safe in a space that it won't have such a negative impact on your life that you cannot survive. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but, you know, some people can handle the struggles. You know what I'm saying? Other people can't. And if you coming out is going to put you in that kind of a position, you got to think about, you know, yourself first. Fuck the movement. Fuck what other people want you to do. Fuck being a role model. Fuck inspiration. You have to live. And so a lot of times when we see these movements happening in a lot of these cases and stuff, it's by people who can afford to do this, and not just financially, but in every way. So I'm looking at the case, you know, I don't know how you pronounce it, Obergefell, I don't fucking know, versus Hodges. You know, this is the other thing I noticed, that we read so much and we're on social media so much, and we ignore that we don't even hear the sounds of words as much as we used to, unless you're listening to radio and podcasts and stuff like that. Like, when it comes to this kind of stuff, like, I didn't even know how to pronounce the name, and I realized it was because I haven't listened to anything about this case on TV. I've only read about it. That's just a sidebar. So you got this case, you got these two older white dudes, you know, you got these people that are fighting, and it's cool because we all got freedom, and it's cool, and I can marry whomever I want to marry, and that's awesome. But let's kind of talk about the erasure of people of color from, you know, queer discussions, particularly as it relates to families, marriage rights, you know, trans issues and things like that. As you know, we have a current epidemic where trans women are being murdered in an almost picked off fashion. Now, I could do the numbers and I could say, okay, 19, 20, I'm not sure if we got to 20 yet, God forbid, whatever. I don't really believe in God, but I say that as part of my language. I'm sorry. But 19, however, the last count I saw was 19 trans women, mostly of color, mostly black trans women are the primary ones getting killed. They're being picked off. And the reason why I say picked off is because you know that I post about, you know, black, cisgender, usually heterosexual women who are being killed by their partners, right? It's a lot. There isn't a week that has gone by this year where I haven't reported them. But I also know in 2013, almost 500 black women were killed in similar fashion. So it's at least one or more. It's more than one a day, so I get that. But there are also like 20 million, 25 million black girls and women in the country. So comparatively, if you're talking percentages, I am a sociology person. One of my other degrees is in sociology. I think that it's not that high of a percentage. One is too many, but in terms of, you know, the proportions, it's not as bad. There are not 25 million black trans women in this country that we know. That we know of. There are not that many. There are so few trans people in general. Then you talk about trans women. Then you talk about trans women of color. Then you talk about black trans women. There are so few that when the news reports that one has been murdered, it's literally like rolling a bowling ball down and knocking over a pin. Okay? That's how bad it is. And I want you to think about it in that way. Okay? So we have this issue here where, you know, trans people are being picked off. You know, trans women are being picked off. We have this issue where trans people are often erased from the LGBTQ community discussions, QIA. They add all these extra letters and still fucking forget about the T that has existed from like damn near day one, right? Well, the T had to be added, but you know what I mean. Like, it was LGBT for, like, a long time, and they've been ignored ever since. So, they're trying to get married, too, but how they get married when their motherfucking partners are killing them? You want to talk about that? How are you supposed to get married as a trans person when the risk of you being killed by your partner is fucking exponential? Like, it's out of control. Where are these white cisgender gay men that are fighting for marriage rights when trans black women are being killed? Where are they? Where are their voices, right? So we have to think about that. We have to talk about that. Divorce is huge in this country, and we don't talk about queer divorce. So one of the things I'm looking into now, as I am an editor, I'm looking for stories about maybe, same-sex couples that have gone through divorce, because I want to represent that. And if you are a same-sex couple of, color, anybody that's gone through that, I want to hear that story. But we tend to whitewash these things, and we tend to ignore that people of color who are queer go through all these things. They date, they have sex, they get married, they get divorced, they have children. Everything that we see that's related to this stuff in the media is all white people. So then comes Stonewall, right? Who heard of Stonewall? What's Stonewall, y'all? Somebody start typing. What is Stonewall? When I say the word Stonewall, what does that mean to y'all? If you've never heard of Stonewall, that's okay. You're about to get a lesson. Gay rebellion, riots, riot. Stonewall riots, trans riot. Marsha P. in New York, trans women. Marsha P. Johnson. Okay. All right, riots. First Pride Parade, women. All right. So, Stonewall Inn, 1969, New York City. Back then, it wasn't like what it is today. And today is bad, but back then it was horrifying. If you were out as a gay person or a trans person or even a drag queen or cross-dresser or whatever, your life was perpetually in danger, okay? You could not even go get a drink without being stopped and frisked, okay? And that's real talk. We're talking police would raid the bars where they suspected that gay people would be for no reason. They legitimately were run. They had all that. They would find little things like, too many people are standing, or your liquor license expired yesterday, or they would fabricate things. They would find any reason to raid these bars and terrorize queer people, and not just in New York, but across the world, across the country. So a lot of the people that kept those establishments going were people of color. From the entertainment to the patronage to what have you, the hosting, it was primarily people of color, but, white people were also involved. So in 1969, there was a riot, a very huge riot at the Stonewall Inn. And a lot of people, it's hard to talk about for me because when I think about it, I'm just like, I hate how we erase this story. This story should be taught in public schools, starting in middle school. If you can learn about Martin Luther King and Selma, you can learn about Marsha P. Johnson and Stonewall. That's just what I feel. So anyway, the police raided so much horrible shit, abuse, arrests, just for existing, right? However, the primary people involved, the ones getting arrested, the ones getting beat the fuck down, were black and Latino and Latina people. I'm going to repeat that again. The primary people who were getting their asses beat and arrested were people of color. Now you get to see a trailer for Stonewall with Jonathan Rhys Meyers, one of the whitest motherfuckers on the whole goddamn planet. You look up white boy in the dictionary, Jonathan Rhys Meyers is right there. You go to Wikipedia and look up white boy, the little thing says, if you met Jonathan Rhys Meyers, click here. That's a white motherfucker. White as shit. He is the primary person leading this movie. Okay? And I'm watching this trailer as I'm in the movie, going to see another horrible ass movie, Z is for Zachariah. That shit was garbage. I'm watching this, and this is the first time I'm seeing the full trailer. You see like the clips or whatever. It's the first time I'm seeing the full trailer. White people, I asked on Twitter the other day, how the fuck, check my nose, there's something in there, you want to see it? It's my nose ring. You want to see? Hi, it's the hook of my fucking nose ring. But thank you, I appreciate you for pointing out my boogers and paying more attention to trying to point out a booger than what the fuck I'm saying. Okay? It's a nose ring. That's what it is. Okay. How do white people sleep at night knowing that they are so oppressive and abusive to people in this kind of way? I'm asking the white people listen to this right now. How do you watch a trailer like Stonewall and see them give all the credit to skinny white gay twinks and totally erase all the real people that were there? How many of you motherfuckers saw Exodus? I saw Exodus on the plane. Exodus was a really fucking good ass movie, except it featured all white people. The way it was made was fantastic, but it was all white people. How do y'all sit comfortably with that? And that's the way I guess I'm challenging y'all. When you see shit like this, say something, do something, decide that you are not going to participate in this. I get so many white people asking, what can I do to help? Say something. Speak out. Say, no, this is not right. It's not cool to totally erase people of color from their own narratives. It's not cool to whitewash things and make ourselves the victors when we were the villains. It's not cool. So I get really upset about things like that because that kind of erasure is oppression. Oh my God, I sound like I'm on Tumblr. Whew, give me a moment. I'm coming back. When you deny people of color the right to tell their own stories, when you deny them the distribution they need to tell their own stories, you are engaging in oppression of those people. And when you don't say anything, when you don't even bat an eye, lash, whatever, you know what the fuck I meant. When you don't do anything, you become complicit in that oppression. Your complacency makes you complicit. Look up those words if you don't understand them. So I don't believe in allies. You guys know I don't believe in allies. I don't believe in that shit. Because I don't believe there's any mutual benefit to us working together. I'm trying to live and I'm trying to be free. That ain't your goal. So we don't have a mutual kind of thing there. Now, if you want to be helpful because you're nice, we got this. And I want you to be a good person. I want you to do right by other people. And I'm going to do right by other people. That's what I'm going to do. Just because it's the right thing to do. Not because I'm trying to forge some allyship or allegiance. But because it's the right thing to do. I'm going to help in any way that I can. I'm going to amplify the voices of the people who are living these experiences and going through this. So unfortunately, our society tells white people that they have the inherent right to be first and foremost. So again, white people are taught and socialized to believe that they have an inherent right to be first and foremost. And as such, many white people are offended when they are not first or foremost. Okay? So, when you see things like young people of color getting into every Ivy League school, you have white people reacting like, well, I guess there's not really much value to those schools anymore. Or how they managed to do that. Why? Who's taking all of them? Why do they get to do that? Instead of, congratulations. You took I lost my job to a black person. What makes you think you were better for the job? Because you white? Shall we look at the statistics, people? That white people with high school degrees have way better chances and opportunities at obtaining gainful employment than black people with bachelor's degrees? So black people got to pay a fucking tax, an educational tax of 4 years of undergraduate education to get a piece of paper that makes them come close to contending with white people in America who get high school diplomas that ain't worth shit because the American school system absolutely fucking sucks. It's not even a Japanese education. It's not even a French or Swedish education. It's a fucking American education. I could wipe my ass with a high school diploma, and it would be more effective at that than it would be at showing American intelligence. Yet, a white person can be in possession of one and earn more money in a more stable job with more benefits than a black person with a bachelor's degree. That don't strike y'all as being fucked up? And if it does, why are you so many of you so comfortable with allowing your children to benefit from it? See, because that's what the real story is. And we're going to end, I got about 19 minutes. This is what the real story is. There's a comfort in that kind of privilege, whether it's white, whether it's male, whether it's cisgender, whether it's hetero, whether it's Christian, whatever the fuck privilege it is. There is a comfort in that, in knowing that you can get ahead because of those things. And so divesting of that means forfeiting the comforts of those things. And while you may be okay with it, you're not okay with your children not having those benefits. And so as white people move out of this young, liberal, I voted for Obama at 25 stage of life when it was all cool to be down for the fucking cause, and they start getting married and having children and thinking about their children's access to resources, all of that shit goes out the goddamn door because they want their children to benefit from every possible resource and privilege afforded to them. We all do. And to say that we don't is a fucking lie, because no parent that cares about their child on this planet is going to intentionally make their child suffer when they have an option to give them something better. And none of us are above that. I utilized a certain privilege to get my son into the school he is in right now. And part of me felt bad about it. The other part of me was like, no, I want my child to have the best opportunity for education in one of the worst school systems in the entire country. So I was not going to give up that opportunity for my child to attend that school. And I felt that I was going to pull whatever string I could to get it. My resume lists all the places that I've obtained my degrees. My resume lists the jobs that I've had at these really prominent corporations and organizations. Why? Because I want the motherfuckers to see that shit, pluck my resume out, and call me for an interview. I utilize the privileges afforded to me by attending those institutions and obtaining those degrees to get my foot in the door. And to hand in a blank resume would be fucking ludicrous. Okay? So I'm putting myself out there and saying that I engage in it as well. But I also will contextualize that and say that as a black woman, I am very low when it comes to the priorities and the access to resources. So I have to use everything that I have to get ahead. And as another human being, I can look at a white mother and see why she would fight hard to put her child in a certain place for a better opportunity. And if she can rely on that white privilege to do so, I can see and understand why she would. I'm saying that. But what I'm going to do is challenge people to think about how we can create more opportunities and more spaces and maybe make some sacrifices when we know we have certain privileges that can help us down the line. Okay? So I may apply for a job and another person who does not have the resume that I do may apply for that job. And I know that these 3 jobs that I'm applying for, I'm going to be offered all 3 because I know that. But this person may only be offered this one job. Am I going to sacrifice that to help that person get that job? And putting yourself in that kind of a position and thinking about, what would I do for the next person? Will I hold on to all 3 job offers and then take this one when I know the other person doesn't have a chance in hell at the other 2? Or am I willing to step aside and let this person have this job and I consider one of the other 2 that I could have? That's what privilege looks like. That's what privilege looks like. And it's an everyday, every moment conscious decision to utilize your privilege for the benefit of others and yourself, but consider others. And the reason why I don't like the ally idea is because I believe that if we just be good people, if we just think about these decisions with this nuance and with this context, that we could do so much greater good for more people. And if we all commit to that, then everyone is helped. Now, some of us are set back a little bit more than others, or a lot more than others. And a lot of us are targeted because of who we are. And our different identities intersect, and that increases the risk for harm just for waking up in the morning. So the responsibility then is for those with the least amount of risk of harm to put themselves in the harm's way. So, white men, white cis, hetero men, I'm talking to y'all right now. You have a responsibility as a good human being to look at these things and say, what am I going to do to help the least among us? What am I going to do to extend myself to try to make the world better for the person who is at the direct opposite side of me? That's hard, because you may not know much about that person, because the way that our countries are set up with segregation and racial issues and class issues and things like that, it is hard to get to know other people. If you don't work with certain people, if you don't live with them, you're not going to get to know them. But you got to step outside of your comfort zone. You have to go out there. You have to reach out. You have to be the one to say, you know what, I'm making this conscious decision to get to know different people because I want to learn more about their experiences so I can be of whatever help they may need. You have to be intentional. You can't just let it just happen. These movements that are stirring right now, these are intentional movements. Black Lives Matter, Love is Love, all of these movements that you see, Trans Lives Matter, all these things are intentional movements, and these are people who are taking actions, and they're saying we are not going to be silent anymore. We are going to support the needs of these people, of ourselves, and we are going to fight for freedom and liberation and for the right to wake up in the morning and draw breath and not have to fear that we will be dead by the end of the day. No one should live in that fear. Okay? So when we talk about feminism, when we talk about trans activism, when we talk about LGBTQ activism, when we talk about, the disabled and differently abled community and their activism, when we talk about all of these things, we have to talk about the ways in which we may oppress those folks, and we have to talk about the ways in which we can amplify those folks. And it's important for us to be cognizant not just of our own issues, because we all have our passionate issues. You guys know my passion is Black women and girls, and I prioritize that above all. Because at 36, that's what I've decided to do. However, that does not mean that I don't care about Latino women. It doesn't mean that I don't care about Black men. I'm raising a Black son. It doesn't mean that I don't care about trans rights. It doesn't mean that I don't care about access for the deaf community. I do care about these things. And so I try to support those folks. And what I'm going to end with is basically just kind of promoting my Women's Freedom Conference. I had a moment today where I kind of burst into tears at work because I've been working on this conference since last year, and I've been working with friends, two of my closest friends, because I had this idea that I wanted to get women of color together for a day of solidarity and unity and sisterhood. It was just an idea. And I just said, this is what I want. At first we were going to do a march, but then I thought about accessibility, and I thought about all the people who would not be able to come to a march, or the people who could not walk, or the people who have anxiety in crowds, or I thought about street harassment. I thought about all those things. So I said, what if we did a conference? And what if we made it completely digital? And what if we made the majority of it free? How do you get tips? Let me talk. So by making it 100% digital, as long as you have access to the internet, you will have access to our content, okay? And when I say we have dynamic content, I say it's amazing. Nothing like this has been done before. So we're making history with this. A 100% digital conference centering women of color around the globe. We had speaker submissions from 4 continents, including Australia, okay? Got Aboriginal women representing. It's free. It's free. We are focusing on first-time presenters. I'm giving people 5 minutes to tell the world about an issue that is important to them and an issue that is important to women of color that the world needs to hear. And I'm giving you 5 minutes to talk about work that you may be doing in that field. So if you are an Indian woman who's 19 and you are fighting street harassment on the streets of Mumbai, I'm giving you 5 minutes to talk about what you're doing and what we can do to help you do that. And I'm not charging anybody to watch that content. I'm giving this for free so that everyone around the world with internet access can watch and hear your story. We're doing 10 of them. And not only are we doing 10 of those kinds of presentations that we're calling freestyle chats, we're having keynote addresses. Our morning keynote is by Catherine Finney, a black woman who created Digital Undivided. And she's committed to diversity in tech. And what this woman has done for diversifying technology and for raising awareness about women of color in tech is phenomenal. And she's going to open it. We thought it was fitting for, a woman of color to talk about tech in an all-digital conference, right? To start us off right. Our evening keynote is by a black trans woman named Lourdes Hunter, who began the Black Trans Woman Center. And what she does for black women, black trans women around the whole country is fucking phenomenal. And I'm honored to have her as a keynote address and talk about the work she has been doing for over 2 decades for trans women activism, trans women of color. We have webinars. These are the only things you have to pay for because we believe in paying women for their content. And so we invited Dior Vargas, a Latina feminist who is a huge advocate in the mental health field, who was recently at the White House and honored by the White House for her activism for people of color in mental health. She is going to give a webinar, and you get to learn from her. And you get to pay her, okay? You get to pay her directly. Subscribe to sit in a master class learning about that. And then we have Majora Carter, the creator of Sustainable South Bronx, who is going to talk about sustainability and technology. And this is going to be a class, a master class. If you know Majora Carter, you know her work. She is fucking amazing. And again, it is our honor. But you're going to pay for that. You're not getting that for free. You're going to subscribe because it's a class. And these women deserve to be paid. Okay? We're working on our midday keynote. We're looking at a number of women. The women that are on my short list, one is an Arab Muslim woman. One is an Iranian woman who does a lot of work with Iranian rights. One is an East Asian woman. I believe she's Korean. And so we're trying to narrow that down. I'm hand selecting these people. But sprinkled in with that, so you've got 3 keynotes, you've got 2 webinars, and you've got 10 of these talks that are very much like TED-style talks. We call them freestyle chats, but there's going to be 10 of those. You're going to learn so much in a 12-hour period. It's going to be ridiculous. And our evening keynote, and guess what? We have featured freestyle talks. So one is by Hood Feminism. Have you guys heard of Hood Feminism? Mickey Kendall and Jamie Nesbitt. Mickey Kendall, starter of Solidarities for White Women. Jamie Nesbitt, who created the feminist selfie movement. They're going to do a featured talk. Then we have the women of color in tech. That is Christina Murillo and Stephanie Murillo, 2 Latina women here in New York who started WOC in tech and are changing the fucking game, okay? They're going to do a featured talk. We have Basi Ikpi, okay? World-renowned poet and mental health advocate who is going to be doing a featured presentation, okay? And I believe that Mona Esalawi committed. I believe she did, and I think we're getting one. I have to wait. But come on! This is what happens when you make something like this happen, something that has never happened before. People are thirsty and they're hungry to participate, okay? And yes, I'm dropping names because yes, Feminista Jones knows people. And you know what? If y'all act right, I'm going to give y'all a talk myself, okay? You get to hear from me as well. But all of that's free. The keynotes and the talks, they're all free. The only thing you have to pay for is the webinars. And that money is going to the teachers. 90% of the funds from the webinars are going to the teachers. The other 10% is paying for the technology to make sure that you guys can access these webinars, okay? 100% of every single dollar raised is going into this. We are not making any money from this. There's no profit had here. Matter of fact, I've been coming out of pocket for some things. People are donating time. You're going to see our website, I believe, tomorrow. Honey, who is a fantastic designer, put together this. That's when I started crying, because she showed me the website. And I've been waiting for months for it, but she showed me the website. And I started crying. And this is, this woman gets like $5,000-$7,000 per website, and she donated this for free to this cause because she's one of my best friends. Okay, we have people who are donating. Leslie Mack, okay, who is behind the Ferguson response. She is the reason why all these Black Lives Matter actions that are happening across the country from this woman, okay? She's on our team. You see what I'm saying? I got folks involved in this who are game changers and want to make sure that women of color are heard, okay? We have over 45 volunteers working on this. Volunteers giving their time. And all I'm asking for y'all to do, and we're doing host viewings in cities, yes. One of my best friends, Mel, she is organizing. If you want to host a local watch party or what have you at your house, at a library, at a coffee shop, whatever, we'll have the information on the website on how you can do that. We're trying to get this around the world. Like I said, we have this around the world. We have an advisory board. I mean, we're talking like, I can't believe all these people said yes. They said yes. Women'sFreedomConference.com. Women'sFreedomConference.com. Right now, you might just see something about the submissions, but tomorrow, I believe, we're going to have the full site. There is host viewings, yes. We have a couple of people. I think there's going to be one hosted in the UK. There's probably going to be one in Canada, in Toronto. We have, a number of people that are signing up, and if you want to do that, then please let us know, because we're happy to have you. If you only have 3 people, if you have 30 people, we want you to do that. So we're going to make history with this, but even more important, women of color around the world are going to be heard, and we're not going to be denied. And this content is perpetual. So after the conference, the content remains available, and you can share it, and you can tell people, and you can utilize it, and you can bring those people on. During the conference day, we're going to have interviews with folks. Women's Freedom Friday starts this Friday. We're going to be interviewing advisory board members and the leadership team about what freedom means to you. So every Friday, we're going to be having chats leading up to the conference that's going to help you understand that. But we are fundraising. We want to pay these people. I want Lourdes to be paid. I want Catherine to be paid. I want Mona to be paid. I want Basi to be paid. I want Mickey to be paid. I want all these people to be paid. And so we need y'all to support. And we haven't really pushed the fundraising as much because the site hasn't been fully done. But over we have 2 months pretty much to raise $12,000 to make sure that everybody gets paid. And I think we're going to try to utilize TransHack for the technology. So we're trying to support trans people in tech. So we may be trying to work with them on this. Again, we are all about representing underrepresented people, and we are taking affirmative actions to engage those who are the most likely to be overlooked or passed over. So hopefully your support will be very helpful, and $5, $10, whatever. We're going to be selling T-shirts, Women's Freedom Conference T-shirts. They're going to be $25 each. The proceeds will all be going back there, but at least you get a commemorative, t-shirt. If you donate over a certain amount, you get free tickets to the live keynote here in New York City. You get a t-shirt, you get, some things. If you or your company wants to be an official sponsor, you can do that as well. We'll have the information as well for that. And you get complimentary tickets and all this other great stuff. And you get advertisement on our site, which is a global site. So we're doing that. And we need your help to fundraise. And again, none of this is going to my pocket. And anybody who has known feministS Jones and all of my fundraising efforts knows that I have never taken a dime from any of those things. It's not how I am. It goes against my social work code of ethics and just who I am. Please let me know about sponsorships. Yes. Carolyn Martinez Class, she is leading our corporate sponsorships and development on that level. But again, this information is going to be on the website, so you'll be able to contact her directly. If you have any questions right now, send an email to info@womensfreedomconference.com, and someone will get back to you within the next 24 hours. We're only trying to raise $12,000. It's not a lot. 12,500, so we can pay the fees for the you carrying. But we're not trying to raise a whole bunch. We calculated, and we're raising just enough to cover the cost of this conference. So please help, and please donate, and tell all your friends. And I'm happy that this is working. And we had 67 submissions for 10 slots, just an FYI. 67 submissions from women of color on 4 continents. I didn't think we were going to get more than 15. So here we are. So I'll talk with you guys next week. It's 9:02. I've been doing this for an hour and 2 minutes already. Thank you for tuning in. And please remember that we all have a responsibility to make this world a better place. Complacency and apathy are our enemies. We have to remain invested in global liberation. Everybody has the right to be free. Every single person. And everybody's personhood should be respected. We're all human beings at the end of the day. Whether you like the way somebody lives or not, we're human beings. So just remember that. I love y'all, and I will see you next week. And maybe we'll talk about sex next week. Bye. If I could turn this motherfucker off. I never can tell this shit right. I be trying to have the dope sign off, and the shit don't work. But bye. Okay.